Hello, I'd like to give you a bit of information about the project we've been working on here for the last few years. It's partly funded by the Grains Research and Development Corporation and of course the university. Over the recent years there's become an increasing interest in soil science education in the grains industry, primarily for advisors to the industry who are perceived to need a little bit more knowledge with respect to soils problems that are confronting the industry. While soil science education continues in various tertiary institutions in Australia, there's an increasing demand for education at the advisor level, where specific issues of interest to farmers need more soil knowledge than is apparently available at the moment. Our project was to develop potentially undergraduate or in-service training curricula in soil science, primarily aimed at benefiting the advisors to the industry. Stakeholders at various meetings we held to define the teaching material gave quite specific information that they did not think traditional tertiary education models were appropriate for in-service training for advisors, partly because of time commitments and expense. After lengthy consultations with stakeholders from the academic and advisor and soil science professional communities, it became clear that modification of existing tertiary programs was not going to be appropriate for the type of in-service advisor education we were looking at. The stakeholders advised us that very focused local information dealing with the problems that farmers face on the ground was what was required, not generalised discipline-based learning. From this point of view, we inverted the traditional soil science textbook model and came up with a teaching resource that focuses on issues and topics that are relevant to farmers and the grains industry that were defined by discussions with the farmers and the advisors about the topics that they saw as being most important to the industry. To make this resource available to workers in the industry, it is presented as an electronic book or e-book, which is therefore available on any phone, tablet, computer, laptop or desktop. And the topics within the resource are those defined by the industry as being most significant, such as available water or variability. Stakeholders also made it very clear that the type of learning experiences they wanted were short, sharp and ideally in situ, discussing the problems that they thought were important in any given area. With that in mind, we developed what we called scenario learning experiences, which were to be on-site with the topics defined by local growers or advisors, and very much hands-on experiences. The learning experiences would clearly focus on fundamental soil science knowledge that is needed to understand the various constraints that the growers and advisors presented. The experiential learning scenario process was designed to take the soil science knowledge and have users looking at soils in the field, discussing the various constraints, characterising the soils and trying to relate these fundamental soil science issues to the constraints in question. We have since completed several workshops, the most successful series being on available water and EM measurements in northern New South Wales. The workshops were extremely successful, with 97 participants over 3 workshops giving us extremely good ratings in their feedback surveys. The participants noted that the content was appropriate and that the method was the best one to develop their knowledge of soil science issues related to the constraints in question. One of the most pleasing outcomes from the workshops was feedback from the participants, indicating their appreciation of the soil science knowledge that was presented and their understanding of the relationships between the material and the soil constraints and productivity issues they were having. There was a clear demand for more fundamental soil science knowledge, which convinced us that we had taken the right approach and were developing programs that would work in relating the soil science issues back to the constraints and the concerns of the people on the ground. The teaching model we've developed needs to be expanded to cover different soil constraints in various parts of the country. Ideally, we would move towards some sort of accreditation for the workshop process so that those who chose to could have some professional tick of approval from participating universities or perhaps the Soil Science Society of Australia. Those options are currently being explored. Thank you.